Hey, it's Meg Cowden with Seed to Fork, and I'm also the author of Plant, Grow, Harvest, Repeat. And I am here today to give you all a few tips for making the most of whatever garden space you have. We obviously have a lot of space here and we're very blessed. We garden on about 1/4 of an acre, foods, both annuals and perennials, as well as lots of flowers. And I'm going to share with you today some of my favorite ways to make the most of any given space. So as I mentioned, we really aren't short on space, but that doesn't mean I don't try to make the most of all the beds. I try to use them as often as possible throughout the growing season. And one way I do that is through succession planting, and specifically interplanting, which is what you see here. So I've got rows of radishes in between my rows of cabbages. And the radishes grow much faster here. So they are ready in about 30 days. They are in fact ready to be harvested right now. And then well after they're gone, there's still plenty of space between these cabbages so that they will have ample room to grow and mature. So this is a great space saver. Interplanting, sometimes also called companion planting or intercropping. So another way to make the most of a space is to plant diversely. So I have got a lot of different types of foods here. I've got celery in that front row, bok choy in the middle, and then I've got a bunch of different kinds of head lettuce, several different varieties. Look at the varieties. I've got a red iceberg, I've got a speckled troutback, and a green iceberg. And then in the middle here, I've got kohlrabi, and I've got another lettuce, and I put that in there on purpose. It is going to be there much longer than the kohlrabi, so it will have the rest of the bed once that kohlrabi gets harvested in a few weeks. So interplanting isn't just for vegetables. Here we've got a blueberry plant and strawberry plants grown together, interplanted, and they both have enough space in this bed to thrive. So the strawberries are kind of a ground cover in this case, and the blueberries are going to grow up much taller over time. So it's a great way to get two types of food that are ripe at two slightly different times of the season in one space. So beans don't take up a lot of space at the beginning, so you can plant something in between them when you plant your beans, especially if you give them enough space. I've got about 18 inches apart in these bean plantings, and in between them I planted my radishes here. So I've got radishes in between 3 different rows. I've got yellow beans, green beans, and purple beans. They're all snap beans, and they will be ready in July. The radishes will mature much before then. So this is another great way to make use of the space in between a plant, because they are maturing at different times. Another really wonderful thing to do is to plant your garden with flowers. The edges of my beds are the places where my flowers thrive. I plant low-growing flowers that are not going to compete with taller plants. Like I've got a pepper there that's going to grow much taller. These flowers are going to grow about 6 to 12 inches, but they will be able to cascade over this by August and really fill out this bed without shading out our crops. So another really great way to make the most of your space is to look at spaces that are going to be shaded soon. So kind of similar to those radishes I showed you, I've got cilantro and head lettuce right at the edge of this trellis. This trellis isn't growing anything yet, but it's going to have our summer cucumbers on it, which are going to put on a lot of leaf area, which is going to make a lot of shade very quickly. So before that shade sets in, you can get a crop of food out of the space underneath. So here is one more area where I've really maximized my plantings. This is kind of a small area. I had a row of radishes already here once. Here's a second row that I am about ready to harvest. And then I transplanted some beets here, and they are in between a couple of rows of broccolis and cabbages. And this is more than 2 feet between them, so I am very confident that that middle area won't get covered by the leaves. You really want to think about how those leaves are going to close in the area. So the beets are going to live in between those, and these will all probably mature in kind of a similar time frame, sometime in the end of June to the beginning of July. Now, all this being said, not every food crop really enjoys being planted with neighbors. These are our potatoes, and we grow them with the trench method. So as they grow, we start burying them throughout the growing season so that they will put on more tubers. I don't plant anything else in this space because I want to make sure that we get the most potatoes out of the space as possible. So flowers can also be the dominant planting in a bed. This is a bed that I always plant with flowers, and as the years have gone on, I've continued to add more and more food to this. I've got kale right in the middle that ends up being one of the dominant plantings of this bed. And then I add lettuces to this edge here with my sweet alyssum, as well as fennel. So I'm tucking those in on the edge. I'm tucking the food on the edge in this case, along with some very low growing flowers, just to add a little extra whimsy and character to the garden, making it as beautiful and edible as possible. I hope you found this helpful and you're thinking of new ways to pair flowers and food together, and even pair unlikely vegetable companions together in your garden this year to make the most of whatever space you have. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to coming back a couple more times this growing season to share even more garden advice to you from our garden. I'll see you soon, and thanks a lot for watching.